Everything you're looking at right now exists because I made a decision. Not one, but thousands of decisions. The decision to draw, the decision to study architecture, the decision to decide to run and participate in races, the decision to read books, and ultimately the decision to start this YouTube channel. None of it happened because I suddenly became motivated. It happened because I kept making decisions that pointed me in the same direction. And whether you realize it or not, you're doing exactly the same thing every single day. Your future isn't something you arrive at. It's something you're voting for with every decision you make. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Desmond IRL, and in continuing with the series, the word of today's video is decision. I think it's going to be decision or decisions, and same as my other videos, we're going to go through 4 different points detailing my kind of thought process around what this word means and how it impacts my daily life. And yeah, thank you for being here. To kind of kick us off, the usual format, obviously 4 points. Point number 1 being defining decision in your own word, and then looking at the Merriam-Webster's definition of it. So first things first, I'm gonna define, I guess, the act of making the decision myself first. So decision making, or what does it mean to make a decision? It is, I guess, like a manifestation of your thoughts in, our current reality, manifesting, I guess, what you're thinking in your head in the physical world. And obviously that can happen in a lot of different ways, but that's just kind of directly from my mind. That's kind of how I'm thinking about the word. And I think we can begin to jump into Merriam-Webster's definition of this word. So I'm looking at decision as a noun, the act or process of deciding, a determination arrived at after consideration, a judicial determination made after consideration of the facts or law of a case, a written report of a determination or conclusion. Some synonyms include opinion, determination, a verdict, or conclusion. And I'm gonna click on the first definition, an act or process of deciding. I'm gonna click on deciding and read some of those definitions off as well. So number 1 being to make a final choice or judgment about, decide what to do. Number 2 being to select as a course of action. Number 3 being to infer on the basis of evidence. And number 4 being to fix the course or outcome of something. Synonyms being to choose, opt, resolve, figure, or determine. And I think those are pretty similar to the way that I'm thinking about it. I'm sure everyone has their own ideas of what this word means. It's not a very difficult word to be understood, but I think there's some reasons that I wanted to talk about it today, which I think I won't really get into in my earlier points. I think much later into my next few points. But yeah, I think to get us started, that is kind of going over what point 1 is. Point 2 is, what does it mean to make a decision and what can they look like? So decisions can look any kind of way, right? Like the act of me choosing to record these videos, the act of me editing, the act of deciding, what I'm choosing to wear every day is a decision. Everything is a decision. Everything is in my room as you see it is a decision. It's something that I decided to either create, either something I decided to buy, something I decided to borrow, something that I decided to keep and not throw out, something that I decided to hang up. Everything ends up being a decision, and it ends up, creating the atmosphere of since we're talking about my room, the atmosphere of what my room is, the atmosphere of the energy that I want to give off based on how I dress, how I style my hair, the accessories that I put on my body. Every decision has a cause and an effect, right? A reason that we're wanting to do it, to start it, and the effect of the decision. It can be anything. It's not difficult to make a decision. Well, it can be depending on the thing. And I think that's kind of jumping the gun, but the first 2 points, there's not much to be talked about when, defining what a decision is, what does it mean to make a decision? I think we have to determine what it is that we want, I guess, in this life, and what it is that we feel like we need. And obviously we will end up making the decisions that will, put us on the path to, get the things that we want in any of those categories, needing, wanting. And I think that brings me into point number 3. How do decisions affect our lives? Are decisions neutral, good, or bad? I think decisions can affect our lives in a number of ways. I think of kind of like microcosm, which might be our life as it is, maybe the immediate people around us. And I think of like a macrocosm, which is big decisions that we make that might have an effect on a larger group of people. This is, say, those who are in high positions of power, who make decisions that govern and dictate the lives of a large number of people. Let's say if you're a mayor, if you're a president, obviously there's a gap between those 2 positions. positions, but there are other positions in between these two that, they have effects on the macrocosm of the way people live their lives. Decisions can have a large effect. And in terms of if they're neutral, good, or bad, I think we have to be considerate of the type of decision that we're making, right? Consider if it might be neutral, if it might be good, or if it might be bad. And I think obviously me as a 24-year-old talking through this topic, I think obviously within my life, especially in hindsight, it is very easy to decide, what might have been a good decision, what might have been a bad decision, and obviously what might be a neutral decision, An easy neutral decision that I can think of right now is like placement on my bed of where I'm gonna sleep. Whether I want to sleep on the left side, the right side, if I want to reverse it and sleep at the bottom. I think that's a very neutral decision that's not going to have an effect, maybe on my sleep quality. It's not going to have an effect on anyone else in my immediate life or anyone else in the macrocosm of the world. And I believe that there are tons of decisions that kind of fall into that category. Decision of the shoes that I decide to wear today, decision of, where I want to prop my skateboard, the placement of posters in my room. I think there are tons of decisions that we make that they're not going to have a huge effect on things, but it still is a decision that we made, and therefore in and of itself it still is worth it as a decision to have been made. Like, I don't think anything has to be always good or bad to have been a decision that it was necessary making. I think we can make decisions based on a number of reasons, and this is something I forgot to mention in one of my earlier points, but I just wanted to read something that I read that I thought was interesting. And this is more so talking to, I guess, the point of helping people make decisions, not even good or bad decisions, but just make decisions in general, and also making good decisions. So, and it starts off by saying that decision making is inherently an emotional process. As we know from neuroscience these days, the default instant gratification circuit in the brain can hijack the wiser decision pathways. This can be avoided by engaging the efficient executive function one if we simply reflect on the long-term consequences of the option on the table. Sometimes one takes one path without much perspective, and that can lead to regret. But willingly taking up something that seems uphill because it would be good in the long run builds grit and resilience and perseverance. During an Art of Living retreat, I once asked Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar, a master meditation teacher, how to make good decisions. He told me to pick that which brings long-term good for many people rather than short-term comfort for few, but long-term problem. I think that makes a lot of good points. There was one additional thing that I wanted to talk about too, was someone mentioning that there are no wrong decisions. There are just decisions you make, and after that, you have whatever new information to make the next decision, and so on. But instead of being frozen and not sure what to do, just make a choice and then adjust. So I think that gets into, obviously, more so defining, what a decision is and how do we begin to make, good decisions. And that's more so, what does it mean to make a good decision? Obviously, as I mentioned before, you can make decisions that are neutral, you can make decisions that are bad. But us being human beings, obviously, we want to make decisions that are more consistently good, that have more consistently better outcomes for our lives and people around us. Yeah, so piggybacking off of what that said, I think we have to determine for ourselves the kind of life that we want, and that will dictate the kind of decisions on a daily basis that we need to make. Getting back into point 3, how do decisions affect our lives? You have to decide the kind of life that you want to live, the kind of lifestyle that you want to have, and the decisions that you make will dictate if you get there. Once you define what you want for yourself, and I know I'm being very vague, and later I can list examples of things that I want and decisions that I need to make to get to where I want to be, right? You can determine for yourself as you're listening to this video, make a list, write down, what is it that I want for myself? What is it going to take to get there? Because a lot of times the things that we want, we either know how to get there, but we're not choosing to make the decision on a daily basis to get there, or we don't know how to get there, but we're not making decisions to get new information to then make a better decision of how to get there, right? Like, I think there's two paths, like the known and the unknown of decision making. And you have to make a decision to know where you are in either situation, right? For my life, one example that I can talk about, and this is like a pretty easy one I feel like to understand, is my dream of being, my dream of having done a triathlon, specifically an Ironman race. And for those who don't know, an Ironman, a triathlon race consists of, to start, it consists of I think a 3.1 kilometer swim. It consists of, next, right after, 112 bike ride, 112-mile bike ride. And third is a marathon, which is 26.2 miles. So first decision is me deciding that I wanted to do this, right? This is not necessarily a need. This is more so a want. And depending on those two categories, we're gonna have different motivations for the decisions that we need to make. If what you need to do is in the need category, hopefully your decisions, obviously you're motivated to do it, but you're kind of required to do it. You know, if it's something that you really need for your life to be sustained, for your life, whatever kind of baseline you want to set for yourself, those are the kind of decisions that you need to make to be able to get that outcome. For the things that you want, you know, the motivation might be there, but it might also not be there. And this gets into the idea of comfort, which also could be another video, right? The idea of comfort, you become too comfortable to a point where you can't push yourself, you know, to continue to make the decisions that you need to make to get the outcome that you want. Maybe not the one that you need because it's not super necessary for your life, but the one that you want. And so with me wanting to do a triathlon, I have to consistently, and in a way that, you know, showcases discipline, I have to consistently make decisions that are going to help me get to that outcome that I want. Decisions such as, you know, I have to decide for myself. Let's break it down. As I exist right now, I don't know how to swim, right? Which is not great if you want to do a triathlon, right? If there's a big swim portion of it, I don't know how to swim. So I need to make the decision to do the research to overcome that. You know, I need to find, you know, some viable courses that I can do that I feel like have yielded good results for others and will yield good results for me. And then once I've done that, I need to make the decision to practice swimming more. You know, I need to swim a certain amount comfortably to know that when I do this race, it is something that I can do. Number two, the bike ride. If I want to bike 112 miles in this race, I need to make the decision to train adequately enough in this portion of the race to know that I can do it when race day comes. I need to have a schedule, and this is something I can make myself, or I can look at what others have done to be able to adequately have a good base of endurance, of aerobic conditioning to be able to complete that goal that I want, right? Thirdly, and this is the one that I'm most experienced in, if I want to be able to complete the marathon, I need to be able to make the decisions daily of training enough, of eating enough, and this applies to all the other ones as well, swimming, biking, running. I need to make the daily decision to get enough sleep, 8 hours of sleep. I need to make the daily decision to eat enough so that I'm adequately fueling my workouts, that I'm adequately fueling my body so that it can recover. I need to make sure, you know, that I'm just doing all the small little tweaks, you know, stretching, strength training so that my body can handle all of that, you know, all of the beating that swimming, biking, and running, you know, causes, those toils, right? I need to be able to continually make the best decisions that are going to put me in the best position to get the outcome that I want. Obviously, if we're switching over to things that I need, you know, having a good career, you know, funding these wants, right? I need to have, you know, gone to school, gotten my education, which I've done. These are things that I know that I needed to do, and I've made the decisions to stay in that process, to stay through, you know, grueling 6 years of architecture academic work, right? The learning process, you know, of getting my Bachelor of Science and then getting my Master's of Architecture. Those are all decisions that I had to make on a daily. And obviously every day isn't gonna be perfect, but more than not, it is best to be making the decisions that you know is gonna get you the outcomes that you need or want. And if you're watching this, you have to determine, you know, as I mentioned before, I mentioned all of this, what it is that you want, what it is that you feel like you need, and make the best decisions accordingly to get the best outcome. Even if you don't end up where you want to be, what are the best decisions that are going to get you close, you know? And I think that gets into my next point. How do we determine what the best decision is, and will we always know? And that second part is very interesting because you won't always know. They say hindsight is always 20/20, right? You can always look back on your life and determine what was the best decision, what was the wrong decision, and what was just like neutral, you know, what would not have changed the outcome of where you are now. It's easier to determine that in hindsight, but it's not always easier to determine that, you know, in foresight or looking towards the future, right? So I guess, you know, if I was to try to explain the best ways to determine what a good decision is, first off, a good decision is any decision, right? And this isn't to say that any decision is a great decision or a good decision, but it's merely to say that you have to decide to take an action, to take a course of action for a good decision, a bad decision, or a neutral decision to occur. You have to decide to act, right? that being the first decision. First decision, do something, do anything, right? As I was reading before, taking the step, any decision isn't a bad decision. Like any decision is good. You just have to take a decision, make a decision, and then whatever information you're provided, make a better decision accordingly, right? And just continuing to stack more information after the next decision, and then get more information and make another decision, right? And to get more specific, as I was saying before, if you want to get better at, let's say one of your hobbies, if you want to get better at art, if you want to get better at skateboarding, with me specifically wanting to get better at editing and making videos, guess what I have to do? I have to keep making videos. I have to keep, trying to add new things into my editing, keep watching videos. And as I continue to stack video by video by video by video, I learn new things. I create a better workflow for myself. I create a better process for myself. And I hopefully I create, in turn, better quality videos that people want to watch. And I guess that gets into like what I was saying before. How to determine what to make the best decision. How do you determine what the best decision is? Make a decision first. See what information you receive and then adjust accordingly based on that and continue in that process. This isn't to say to make a blind decision or just a random decision. Obviously, use wisdom, use your knowledge, consider it as what you want and need, right? What I mentioned before, just consider what you want or need, and then just make a decision in that path and then just adjust accordingly. And a way that you will know if you are making the right decisions is the world is going to tell you, your body's going to tell you. Whatever decisions you are making about your health, about fitness, about running, your body's going to tell you. Whatever decisions I am making about the videos that I am making, the videos that I'm creating in my editing, the results will tell me. Everything is a feedback loop. Everything is a cause and effect. What you can control is the decisions that you make and making them to the best of your ability, having done research about whatever it is that you want or need, as I said before. And then in determining how you will know, just look at the effects of it. I can look at my life, having 2 degrees by 24, having, K through 12, studied art. I can see the results of my art and I can show pictures of it. I can see the results of everything that I've gained up until this point as a result of all of the decisions, the daily and continual decisions that I made, right? So look to your environment. Look to everything around you to determine if you've been making good decisions. They will also tell you if you've been making bad decisions. And a lot of times we know what kind of decisions we've been making. We know at a conscious level if we've been making the best decision. This gets into a point, maybe an extra bonus point, which is a change in decision making. Doing something we've never done can change the course of your life for the better or worse. So let's say, and this is depending on the kind of life that you want, right? As of now, I'm going to start my architecture career. I have a job offer. I start, in the next few months, I'm going to be moving from Mississippi to another state, California, and I'm going to start my architecture career. And this kind of gets into what I was talking about another video, but previously, like a while back, it was about, making your future unpredictable. Not in a bad way, not inviting in chaos, but, just having it always be dynamic. I don't want my future to be predictable. I don't want my future to be laid out so cleanly in a way that doesn't allow for a diversity of experiences, right? And obviously, diversity of experiences is determinative of what you want your life to look like. I want to have a successful architecture career, right? I want to have great impact in that. I want to get licensed. I just want to experience success in that, But I know the 9-to-5 life isn't something that I want forever. I know that I don't want to work the rest of my life. I know that I want to retire sooner than most. So there begins to be this divergence. Decisions that we know are going to give us a specific normal baseline lifestyle, such as, climbing the corporate ladder, getting my license, working at, maybe different firms in different cities. You can look up the salary of an architect, and obviously you can choose to surpass the salaries that you see based on, how you manage your career. But more likely than not, it's going to be close to maybe some of the averages that you're seeing, depending on what state you're in or what level of experience you have within your career or how far along. But as I mentioned in one of my other videos, and this is kind of a crazy thing, but it's like, what does it mean to be able to purchase a yacht? What did you do to be able to get to that level of wealth? Obviously, there are a variety of reasons. People can inherit wealth. People can start businesses that, become super successful, and, it accumulates a lot of wealth for these people who started the business. If they maintain, maybe stock in the business or whatever. And it's like, for me at least, and I talk about this in my setting goals video, setting impossible goals, alongside my normal decisions that are going to create a baseline of living for myself. I also want to make other decisions that are going to diversify my experiences, right? Like starting this YouTube channel, making videos, seeing what the possibility of life can be if this becomes successful, wanting to be a triathlete, wanting to do these endurance races, having dreams of maybe being sponsored, wearing shoes of a company, having companies sending me clothes and I do reviews. That is also a dream of mine. Not that buying a yacht is a dream, but what would it mean to have the wealth to be able to do that, to be able to make that decision? Not that you have to make it, but to be able to do it, right? Obviously in an ethical way. We're not pushing towards exploiting people, right? But what does it mean to have those kind of goals, and what does it mean to have decisions that could maybe put us on that path? And you have to be able to, as I mentioned, the point of this, make decisions that you would have never made before to get a life that you would have never thought possible. That's really the biggest reason I wanted to make this video, is that so much of our lives, we make decisions that we feel like are relevant to who we are as people. We kind of confine ourselves in this box of who we are as people, and we let that dictate the decisions that we make. We decide, oh, I'm not meant to be an athlete. I'm not meant to have, six-pack abs. So therefore, I'm not gonna make the decisions to even get that because I don't want that. It's not what I'm meant to have, But we have to begin to change, the mindset of our decisions. We have to begin to change, what we imagine our life to be. You have to start there, and then that will dictate the kind of decisions that you make. And I don't know if this is resonating with anyone, but the way that I think about it is I want to be able to make decisions, obviously keeping in line with my ethics and morality. I want to be able to make decisions that go outside of things that I would normally do. One easy example is like, people talk about things about like dating and wanting to, find potential partners, wanting to get married, wanting to put themselves out there. That is not something that, you can be passive about it, but you can also be pretty active in that wish, in that goal, right? Like if you see someone who you think is pretty or beautiful, and this is me speaking from the perspective of a man, if you see a woman that's beautiful and you want to pursue her, obviously do it in the realm of what's appropriate. We're not pushing for people to be creeps to random strangers, but that is an opportunity to go up to that person, introduce yourself, mention something relevant to them or the situation. Let it be relevant to whatever the situation is. Let it be natural. Let it be a comfortable situation for both people, and recognize, in making that decision, whatever information you get, if you realize that they're accepting your advance, then, go from there. They realize that like they're kind of pushing back, then, step away and keep on with your life, and realize that like the confidence that you get from doing that action that maybe you've never really done before, you're not accustomed to doing. You have to take yourself out of the mindset of what I'm accustomed to doing, decisions that I'm accustomed to making. If you want to get a life that you never had before, you have to make decisions that you've just never made before. That is a constant thing that I am pushing for myself to do. Making these videos, this is not a natural thing to me, right? The goal of trying to do a triathlon, like swimming, biking, running, all these endurance challenges, these aren't natural things. This could also be another video, but challenging yourself, challenging who you think yourself to be, determine who you want to be, what kind of baseline lifestyle you want to establish. Have a few things that challenge you. They don't have to make or break you, but have a few things that challenge you so you're not getting stuck in this identity of who you are and getting stuck in making the same kinds of decisions, right? And that will in turn give you an outcome that you might have never thought possible. It seems like I'm rambling at this point, but I think that point of decision, that point of reference to these things that we want, I think it's important. And I think if you're listening to this video, determine for yourself, the life that you want. And this is something that I feel like I'm gonna continue to say, but life is an active act, right? We shouldn't go through life passively. We should be very active in curating the life that we want, and in being active in that process, you're determining in your head the life that you want, and also, the life that you need. And based on that, make decisions accordingly. First off, make a decision, receive information from said decision, and then adjust accordingly for the things that you want. And also, don't be shy about what you want. Establish a baseline. But if there are some things that you want that are not, it's not normal for your family, it's not normal from your location or the life that you have at this point, don't be afraid to push for what might seem impossible. Don't be afraid, to make decisions toward, what might seem like not a great decision, what might not seem a great or intelligent course of action, And this gets into this idea of, how long should we persist in things? And I'm not gonna get too much into that because I discovered it in another video. You have to determine how much persistence is needed for said things that might seem impossible or that might seem out of the ordinary. You have to decide for yourself what these things will look like. And I think in being active about that, you will get one step closer to having the life that you need and the life that you want. We're approaching the end of the video. If any of these points stood out to you, if they inspired you or communicated something new that you didn't know, feel free to share on what in the comments. Feel free to share what I can do better to increase the quality of the video and the content of the video. And if there's anything else that you would like me to discuss, maybe a word, I can make a video about it. And yeah, thank you for, if you made it to the end of the video, thank you for watching. I hope that you are having a great day, and I hope that you are making good decisions for the life, the outcomes that you want. And yeah, my name is Desmond Young, and this is my YouTube channel, Desmond IRL. Thank you.